Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rainer Tang, and I am President of the Law Institute of Victoria. It's my pleasure to be here today and in the company of the Victorian Bar to welcome you to Law Week 2013. Law Week is a national event focused on justice, rights and insights. It offers the public a unique opportunity to better understand the law, where to turn when they have a legal problem, and the processes involved. One aspect of the law that fascinates the public is the daily drama played out in the courtrooms across the country. For many people, their only experience of courtroom proceedings is via the daily diet of TV shows devoted to law and the lawyers. I'm sure many of you here today are wondering when dissolute barrister Cleaver Green from ABC TV's Rake is going to stumble into proceedings, necktie askew, unshaven, and worse for wear after a long night of client research. Or maybe you're hoping for the sleek and stunning stars of The Good Wife to burst through the courtroom doors at any moment. People who watch these fictional legal worlds played out on TV often ask, is this really what happens in the courtroom? What role do all these people play? Senior counsel, associates, tip staff, who are these people? What do they do? Do prosecutors really pose such probing and personal questions? Do witnesses behave and misbehave, as we so often see on television? Are the judges really that scary? And how can it be left up to a jury to decide a person's fate? And for those of you who've watched the Victoria Legal Aid funding debate played out in the media, what is an instructing solicitor? And why are they so important to a fair trial that judges have insisted that they be present in serious criminal matters? At today's mock trial, which has been prepared by the Australian Advocacy Institute, we hope to answer these and other queries for you, to give you the experience of being in court. And there is no better place to watch a courtroom drama unfold than here in the Supreme Court of Victoria's #1 court, the beautiful and majestic Banco Court. Today's mock trial presents a fictional case of Director of Public Prosecutions against Evelyn Cannon, in which the defendant has been charged with possession of cocaine. Will she be found innocent or guilty? We will be assisted in our deliberations by the good members of our jury who will play a key role in determining the outcome. I would like to thank the members of the legal profession who have given their time to be here today. I know that they are looking forward to casting light on the way the law proceeds in criminal courts. Supreme Court Justice Philip Priest will preside over today's events, ably assisted by his associate, Chris Wareham. Squaring off in today's mock trial, we have for the prosecution, Senior Counsel Christopher Beale, SC, Junior Counsel Pat Doyle, and Instructing Solicitor Nick Cooper. For the defence, we have Senior Counsel Greg Lyon, SC, Junior Counsel Caroline Gwynn, and Instructing Solicitor Divya Sharma. Acting as our witnesses are Alexandra Brand as Senior Constable O'Rourke, Lee Howard as Peter Porter, Nikki Neville-Jones as Evelyn Cannon, and Madeline Edwards as Luigi Fiorelli. Please sit back, ensure your mobile phones, iPads and other electronic devices are off, and enjoy the high drama that is a matter of DPP against Evelyn Cannon. May it please the Court.
Good evening, ladies and gents. As the President of the Law Institute so eloquently introduced, the role of the instructing solicitor in criminal trials, but not only criminal trials, but any court matter, is one of great importance, and we're lucky enough to be a member of this profession. And I'm a reasonably new lawyer, and I don't work in criminal law, but I'm soon about to find out a lot more about it, as you are. But I'd like to introduce the role of the instructing solicitor for the prosecution, if I can. The instructor for the prosecution, or the Crown, must act ethically and fairly and provide sound legal advice to counsel, these gentlemen over here, and the event managers, if you like, of the trial. They must liaise with witnesses, organise the paperwork and how the case will be presented by the senior and junior counsel, and deal with exhibits and photographs and any other materials relevant to the case. They need to confer with witnesses and witnesses' families, arrange video links, prepare transcript, and edit the records of interview and audio recorded evidence and the transcripts of those audio interviews. They must ensure that water is always available And the court could also ask the instructing solicitors of either side to do pretty much anything at any time, so they need to be on their feet and ready to roll with the punches during the trial at a moment's notice. We're servants of the court and we're expected to assist the court at all times. Some of the jobs that the instructing solicitor for the prosecution may do, and this is just an example and a select example of a few of those, is complete the court appearance sheet. When we show up for the first day one of the trial, we fill out the court appearance sheet with the names of the counsel for both sides, or for our side at least. Give all witnesses expense forms to the informant, so that if any witnesses have to incur an expense to come to trial to give evidence, then they can fill out a form and get their bus fare or train ride paid for. Each civilian witness is excused from, as each civilian witness is excused from giving evidence, the informant should certify the attendance of the witness at court and then hand the witness the expense form. It's very important, these things. Take notes of the proceedings during the course of the trial and any discussions or agreements between the counsels for the party, for the prosecution and the defence, noting times of breaks and commencements of hearing and conclusions of hearing. Maintain a comprehensive and accurate list of exhibits. You'll see a handful of exhibits today, including what we call a bag of cocaine. And always remember, when a Crown witness is under cross-examination, so a witness for the prosecution, that's our side, the good side, the prosecutor and Crown instructors are not permitted to talk to the witness. At the conclusion of hearing, all Crown exhibits must be retrieved from the court, and any physical exhibit must be returned to the informant. When the trial concludes, finally, it's the role of the instructing solicitor for the prosecution to send to the victim a letter advising of the result of the trial. These are just a handful of examples of what the trial solicitor for the prosecution will be responsible for, and I'll hand over to Divya, who is the instructing solicitor for the defence, to explain her role.
Thank you, Nick, for this detailed information on the role of instructing solicitor. I have tried to summarise this role much further. As you all know, I'm the instructing solicitor for the defence, which is actually the good side, not the prosecution. And my role in this matter can be summarised in 3 stages. Can you all hear me?
I think so.
Much closer. There you go. Okay, now my role can be summarised into 3 stages: pre-trial, during the trial and post-trial. Now, my role initially began when my client made the initial contact with me in this matter when she was in custody, and I advised her whether she should exercise her right not to answer the questions put to her by the investigating police officer. I was then involved in making decisions whether to apply for bail and preparing for the bail application, which obviously required me to understand the prosecution case and the strengths and weaknesses of the case. Since then, I have maintained contact with my client, whether in custody or otherwise, and I have made important decisions and judgments that were required to be made about taking instructions from my client. I have gained thorough knowledge of the client's case and developed an understanding of how a trial could or should be run in this matter. Now, with that knowledge and understanding, I actually undertook the briefing of the counsel in this case, which is the senior counsel and the junior counsel. I was present and actively involved at the discussions whether a client should plead guilty or not guilty. I was also present at all the conferences that were held between the counsels and my client. I was involved where necessary in arranging the defence evidence, witnesses, to make them to agree to give evidence in this matter. Now, at the trial, I will be participating in empanelment of the jury. I will be making inquiries, often very urgently during the trial, for the purposes of cross-examination about evidence that the witness will be giving or has already given by way of affidavits. I will be consulting with the counsel how to effectively cross-examine the prosecution witnesses. If unexpected situations arise during the trial, I will be taking instructions from my client and giving advice on whether to apply for the discharge of the jury. I will be consulting with the counsel on submissions that are required to be made to Your Honour, to His Honour in relation to various matters, including whether particular items of evidence be challenged as inadmissible, whether there is a case to answer, and whether my client should or should not give sworn evidence. I will be consulting again with the Council on the presentation of Council's final address to the jury. I will also be assisting the Council to consider exceptions to Your Honour's charge to the jury. And after the trial has finished, I will be dealing with the consequences of the verdict. And depending on the outcome of the case, I will be advising my client to consider the appeal rights. Now, overall, the role of an instructing solicitor is a very important one that involves coordination and preparation of the case, instructing the barristers during the hearing, and assisting in the preparation of the closing address. Solicitors' pre-trial notes are very important documents. They identify relevant issues, areas of cross-examination, likely objections and responses. Today, I will primarily be assisting the Defence Counsel during the trial and by recording the evidence given in the court and pointing out important matters as we progress. Thank you very much.
Silence, all stand, remain standing. All persons having business before this honourable court are commanded to give their attention and they shall be heard. God save the Queen. Be seated, please.
Welcome, one and all, and yes, judges really are that scary. Would you arraign the accused, please?
Evelyn Cannon, please stand. Are you Evelyn Cannon?
I am.
The Director of Public Prosecutions charges that Evelyn Cannon at Carlton in Victoria on or about 3 October 2012 conspired with Taras Shenko to supply a drug of dependence. How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
The Director of Public Prosecutions further charges that Evelyn Cannon at Melbourne in Victoria on or about 3 October 2012 possessed a drug of dependence, namely cocaine. How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
Consider, please.
Do we have our jury? Members of the jury, just before we take appearances, members of the jury come into the witness box, please. Into the jury box, please. Have we got them? I thought they'd already been in the jury box. It's Jane Torre, Emma Tucheri, Anne Wong, Jai Ng, Annie O'Brien, Georgie Kent, Maria Katartsis, Emily Hanson, Jacinta Niza, Samantha Matter, Sophie Loveday and Shane Yin Chu. The name of the young lady sitting closest to me.
Jane.
Sorry?
Jane.
You're our foreman for the night. Yes.
The court pleases I appear with my learned friend, Mr Doyle, for the prosecution.
If Your Honour pleases, I appear with my learned friend, Ms Gwynn, on behalf of Evelyn Cannon.
Thank you. Yes, Mr Doyle.
Members of the jury, on the morning of the 3rd of October last year, A woman hired locker number 13 at Southern Cross Station. She hired it from the manager, a gentleman named Peter Porter. And Mr. Porter saw her place a parcel in the locker. That same day, but in the evening at about 11 o'clock, a police officer by the name of Paul O'Rourke, acting on a tip-off, went to Canning Street in Carlton, and he took up a position across the road from a phone box near Luigi's restaurant. At about 1 o'clock in the morning, so I'm now talking about the 4th of October 2012, Police Officer O'Rourke saw a woman exit Luigi's restaurant. She walked a short distance and entered a nearby phone box, and Police Officer O'Rourke saw her place a black container, a small black container, underneath the phone box. She then exited the phone box and left the scene. About 5 minutes later, a Jag pulled up near that phone box, and a man got out and went to the phone box and retrieved that small black container. At that point, Officer O'Rourke crossed the street and arrested the man, a man by the name of Taras Shenko. A sinister name, you might think. He searched Taras Shenko and found that small black container. And inside that container was, you guessed it, a key for locker number 13. Officer O'Rourke went to Southern Cross Station and found locker number 13, opened it with that key and found a parcel which contained a number of large plastic bags, and in each of those large plastic bags were 10 smaller plastic bags containing cocaine. Nearly $100,000 worth of cocaine, ladies and gentlemen. The next day, the 5th of October, O'Rourke showed Peter Porter, who was the manager at Southern Cross Station, showed him a picture of the accused woman. Mr. Porter said that photo looked like the woman who came and rented that locker. Later that day, the 5th of October 2012, Officer O'Rourke went back to Luigi's restaurant and he saw the woman from the phone box again. She was a waitress working at Luigi's restaurant. She was, in fact, the accused woman. And whilst he sat there in that coffee shop, in that restaurant, amongst other things, making a sketch of the general area, and I'll take you to that sketch later in the proceedings, he overheard a conversation between the accused woman, Evelyn Cannon, and Luigi, the proprietor of the restaurant. I'll say that again, the proprietor of the restaurant. And what he overheard... Excuse me, you shouldn't leave your mobile phones on while in court. What he overheard her saying was, Taras was busted last night. That name again, Taras, that sinister name, ladies and gentlemen. On the 6th of October, he went and arrested Evelyn Cannon at her home in Kew. He conducted a tape record of interview with her. Essentially, she said, "You've got the wrong woman." But significantly, she at first denied knowing Taras Shenko. Never heard of him, she says. The same man whom she told Luigi was busted the night before. That, in a nutshell, is the prosecution case. You'll hear two witnesses for the prosecution, Officer O'Rourke and also Peter Porter, the manager at Southern Cross Station. And at the end of this case, applying the standard of proof that applies in all criminal trials beyond reasonable doubt, you will find that there is no doubt that this woman was involved with Tarashenko in a conspiracy to supply cocaine, and that she in fact possessed cocaine in pursuance of that conspiracy. Thank you.
Now, members of the jury, my task now is not to address the evidence in any great detail. It is simply to tell you what is and is not an issue in this trial. Now, the issue here for you to decide is a very simple one. First, can the prosecution prove beyond reasonable doubt that Evelyn Cannon is in fact guilty of possessing cocaine and conspiring to supply cocaine? And essentially, can the prosecution prove that it was Evelyn Cannon and not someone else who left the cocaine in the locker at the station and dropped the key in the telephone booth? Now, when you listen to the evidence, you should look out for the differences in the descriptions of the women in Canning Street, in Carlton, and at the train station. And these differences will leave you with a doubt, that is a reasonable doubt, that it was in fact Evelyn Cannon. Now, that's all it takes, members of the jury, a reasonable doubt. For if you have that, it is your duty, and it is this woman's right at law, that you must acquit her of the charge, and that is, you must find her not guilty. But for now, listen to the evidence, listen for those changes in the descriptions, because they are fatal to the prosecution case. Don't listen to the spin or the gloss put on it by the prosecution, for they will have you convict this woman because the prosecutor, Mr. Beale, an odd name, says that the name Taris is a sinister name.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Lyon. Mr. Beale.
I call Paul O'Rourke, Your Honour.
Silence. What is your full name?
Mr. Paul O'Rourke.
Repeat after me. I solemnly and sincerely
I solemnly and sincerely
declare and affirm
that the evidence I shall give
will be the truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
Your full name is Paul O'Rourke, is that correct?
Correct.
At the time of these events, you were a senior constable with the Australian Federal Police, is that so?
Yes.
You've recently, however, been promoted because of outstanding work in a large drug bust, is that right?
Yes.
I want to take you back, Ms O'Rourke, to October of last year. On the 3rd of October, did you receive a tip-off that there was likely to be a drug drop in Canning Street, Carlton?
Yes.
Did you attend at Canning Street, Carlton that night to conduct
Yes.
surveillance?
Yes, I did.
Approximately what time did you get there?
About 11 p.m.
And were you in a marked police vehicle or an unmarked police vehicle?
Unmarked.
Whereabouts did you park your police car?
Opposite Luigi's bar.
And once you'd parked it there, what did you do?
I walked north and took up a position opposite the telephone box, which was on the other side of the street.
All right. And was that telephone box, which was across the street from you, was that near Luigi's bar?
Yes.
I take it Canning Street runs north and south.
Can you confirm that it runs north-south?
Yes.
It does. Thank you. Thank you, Your Honour. I want to perhaps jump ahead to a sketch that you drew of the area. Do you have a copy of that sketch with you?
Yes, I do.
We have a large version of it here, but if I could have handed to the members of the jury, Your Honour, copies of that sketch.
No objection, Your Honour.
Grateful to my learned friend. Now, this is a sketch you drew on the evening of the 5th of October, is that right?
Correct, yes.
But it basically sets out the scene that confronted you on the night that you made your observations.
Yes.
3rd of October. We can see down in the bottom left-hand corner Luigi's bar.
Correct.
Was that well lit?
Yes.
And there's a street light outside Luigi's bar. Was that working?
Yes, it was.
All right. Next to Luigi's bar is what you called a vacant shop.
Yep.
Was that unlit?
Yes, it was.
And next was a 24-hour video shop. Is that correct?
Correct.
Well lit?
Yes.
All right. We see in front of the in front of the 24-hour video shop another street light. Was that operating on the night of the 3rd of October?
Yes, it was.
And can you just help us with where you took up position to conduct surveillance using the map?
On the other side of the street, near the street light.
All right.
Did you want the witness to mark a copy?
I will ask her to mark a copy. Your Honour, I have another spare copy. Now, if you can just, perhaps, if you just draw a little square and write in me, so we know where you... and if you can mark it on that larger map too. Thank you. If that could be held up so we can all see it.
Let's make sure the members of the jury can
All
see
right.
it.
If people have as good eyesight as you have, Officer O'Rourke, there'll be no problem. Now...
Do you see that, members of the jury? Can you see where me is marked?
Right, I want to move...
Did you want to tender that, Mr. Bird?
yes, Your Honour, I do. Thank you.
That will be Exhibit A.
All right. Now, at about 1 o'clock in the morning, so that's the 1 o'clock on the 4th of October, you've been there a couple of hours, did you see something?
Yes, I did.
What did you see?
I saw Evelyn Cannon.
The accused woman?
Yes.
Where was she when you first saw her?
In Luigi's bar.
You could see her from across the street in Luigi's bar.
Yes.
And what did she do?
She came out of Luigi's bar.
In which direction did she go once she came out of...
She walked north towards the phone box.
All right. Now, what sort of a view did you have of her at that point in time?
Well, I could see everything she was wearing. It was quite clear.
All right. Now, this is about 1 o'clock in the morning. That's on a weeknight, is that right?
Yes.
Was there much traffic about?
No, not at all.
Were there many pedestrians about?
It was just medium traffic flow. And
All right. Was there anything impeding your view?
No.
Usually it's only judges that are kept in the dark.
All right. Can you just describe her her appearance, how tall she was, what she was wearing, etc.?
I would say she was about 170 centimetres tall, of medium build. She had short blonde tipped hair. On the night, from what I remember, she was wearing a black overcoat, black stockings and ankle boots.
All right. And she went over in the direction of the telephone booth. Did she enter the telephone booth?
Yes, she did.
Did you see that?
Yes, I did.
What did she do when she got into the telephone booth?
She closed the door. It looked like, well, she was looking around. She reached into her large tapestry handbag and she withdrew a small silver box, and then she just placed it under the phone stand and then she left.
All right. Is this the tapestry bag?
Yes.
Thank you. How did you come by this tapestry bag?
We took it from her.
Thank you. Good. I tend to that, Your Honour.
Yes, the large tapestry bag will be Exhibit B.
Thank you. When she left the phone box, in which direction did she go?
She crossed Canning Street diagonally to where my car was,
All
and
right.
then she walked south.
So how far was she from you when she crossed the street, came over to your side of the street?
Well, she walked almost right past me.
All right. Now, did you notice anything more about her appearance as she was crossing the street?
That she had large hooped earrings on and red framed glasses.
All right. 10 minutes later, did you see something?
Yep.
What was
Yes.
it?
I saw a black Jag stop right beside the telephone box, and then I saw a man come out, who we now know is Tarashenko.
What did he do?
He went straight into the telephone box and he appeared to remove that silver magnetic box.
Did you go over to him at that stage?
Yes, I did straight away. I arrested him and I removed the box from the lining of his overcoat.
All right. Can I have the box? Now, is this the silver box which hasn't been cleaned lately? Did you find this box on him?
Yes, I did.
Thank you. Where was it?
It was in the pocket of his overcoat.
All right. Now, what did you find inside that box?
I found locker key number 13 to a locker at Southern Cross Station.
And did you go to Southern Cross Station later on the 4th of October?
Yes, I did.
Did you look in locker 13?
Yes, I did.
Is this what you found?
Yes.
Did you have it analysed?
Yes, we did.
Cocaine?
Yes.
Value?
Between 90 to 100,000.
All right. Did the next evening, so the evening of the...
Did you want to tender those items?
I do, Your Honour.
Worried about leaving cocaine on the bar table with bar.
Yes, thank you.
The metal container will be Exhibit C and the cocaine Exhibit D. I better have a closer look at the cocaine.
Thank you, Your Honour. The next evening you went back to Luigi's restaurant, is that correct?
Correct.
Did you see anybody?
Yes, I noticed Evelyn Cannon.
The same woman you'd seen at the phone box?
Yes.
And did you hear her say anything?
Yes, I did. I heard her talk to Luigi and she said, "Did you know Taras was busted last night just outside here?"
All right. Did you also go and see Peter Porter at Southern Cross Station?
Yes.
Did you show him this picture?
Yes, I did.
Is that a picture of Evelyn Cannon that you had in your records?
Yes, it is.
And when you showed him that picture, what did he say?
Object to the use of the words records, no?
Yeah.
What's it implying?
Not implying anything, Your Honour, just stating a fact.
Don't draw any adverse inference from Mr. Beale's use of the word records.
When you showed Peter Porter that photo, what did he say?
That was Evelyn Cannon.
Did you subsequently arrest Evelyn Cannon?
Yes, I did later on at her house.
And did you conduct a record of interview with her?
Yes.
Can I just be clear on one thing? Mr Porter said who was depicted in the photograph?
He said it was a lady by the name of Carmel O'Kane.
O'Kane.
Yes.
And did you conduct... you told us that you conducted a record of interview with... and you've had that transcribed?
Yes.
Your Honour, at a later point... well, perhaps I should just read that to the jury.
Yeah.
Record of interview between Senior Constable O'Rourke and Evelyn Cannon. Interview commenced at 4 p.m. O'Rourke asking questions. The interview was tape recorded. Your full name is Evelyn Cannon. You live at 13 Black Street, Kew. Is that right? Yes. How old are you? 22, nearly 23. I wish to interview you in relation to a conspiracy to supply cocaine and to the possession of cocaine. Before I do so, I must inform you you are not obliged to say or do anything, and that anything you say or do may be given in evidence. Do you understand that? Yes. What's a conspiracy? Conspiracy means an agreement. I must also inform you that you may communicate with a friend or relative to inform that person of your whereabouts or a legal practitioner. Do you understand those rights? Yes. Do you wish to exercise any of those rights? No. Do you understand why you are here today? You asked me down. I don't know why. It's alleged that you conspired with Tarashenko to supply cocaine. What do you say to that? I have nothing to do with it. Well, you were working at Luigi's on the 3rd and 4th of October, weren't you? Yes, I was. I saw you leave Luigi's and enter the nearest phone box where you deposited a key to a locker which contained cocaine. You didn't see me. You've got the wrong woman. Do you know Tarashenko? Never heard of him. No, wait. I think I know who you mean. I think he is a customer, but I don't know him. I have had nothing to do with him. I heard you tell Luigi, your boss, that you knew that Taras was arrested outside the phone box. OK, I might have been set up. What did you do after you left work at about 1 a.m? I walked past the telephone box and got a taxi home. Do you own a black overcoat? Yes, I do. I just got it. As a matter of fact, as I walked past the phone box, I saw another woman in a coat just like mine, near the door of the phone box. It struck me because I thought that mine was a one-off. You were identified by a man at Southern Cross Station as the woman who deposited a parcel which we found to contain cocaine. It wasn't me. I showed him this photo of you, shown to the defendant. Yes, but I haven't looked like this for a long time, not since May when I got back from Bali. What do you mean? I changed my hairdo after I got back from holidays, months ago, and I don't wear hooped earrings anymore. I swapped them for a Balinese painting. Do you wear glasses? Only for reading and sunglasses. Do you have a large tapestry bag? No. Only this normal-sized red leather bag. Tell me why you happened to be at the phone box just before Shenko turned up. I'm not answering any more questions. I want to see my solicitor. That's the record of interview.
Correct.
Thank you. I tendered that photo, Your Honour.
Yes, exhibit E, F might be.
Now, if I can have the large map, please, Mr. Trooper. Senior Constable O'Rourke, in the brief, you have provided the map
Yes.
which you drew, is that right?
Yes.
And you've also reproduced it on a larger scale, is that right?
Correct.
So what you would say is that you were standing on the other side of the road next to the street light there. That's where you've written me, is that right?
Yes.
Now, although it's not marked on this map, to the left is Luigi's bar, then the bacon shop, and then the video shop. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So what you say is that you, from across the road, you had a clear view of Luigi's bar.
Yes.
All right. Now, you've also said that on the night, certainly in your statement at least, that there was a few cars around.
Yes.
And that there were also people on the street.
Yes.
All right. Your view, though, your concentration initially was into Luigi's bar. Is that right?
Correct.
All right. So what you're able to say is that from where you were standing, you had good lighting. You were looking across, I think it says in your statement, something like 12 metres.
Yes.
Is that right? Unimpeded view, and you had a good view of Evelyn Cannon.
Yes.
And so you saw Evelyn Cannon's appearance as she left Luigi's that night.
Yes.
All right. Now, the people that you saw there were people on the footpath walking along, that is on this side of the footpath, the side of the footpath where the telephone box was. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
You indicated from south to north then.
I did indicate from south to north. I'm as happy with north to south, Your Honour. So, let's have a look at what you said about Evelyn Cannon as she left Luigi's, and this is when you had a good view and a clear view and an unimpeded view in the light, wasn't it?
Yes.
You said that she was wearing a black overcoat. Is that right?
Correct.
She wore black stockings and ankle boots.
Yes.
You said that she was 170 centimetres tall.
Correct.
And that, I'll just turn it up, you said that she had short, blonde, tipped hair. Is that right?
Correct.
All right. Now, you made notes at the time of this, did you not?
Yes.
And in the notes, you noted a person who was 179 centimetres. Is that right?
Yes.
Medium build and black overcoat.
Correct.
Okay. Now, you made observations of a woman in the phone booth, didn't you?
Yes.
And you said of that woman in the phone booth that she was carrying a tapestry bag.
Yes.
But you hadn't said that when Evelyn Cannon came out of Luigi's bar, did you?
No.
No. And then you gave a description of the woman crossing the road, didn't you?
Yes.
And you said of that woman that her hair was spiked on top.
Correct.
Yeah. That she had large hooped earrings.
Correct.
And that she was wearing red framed glasses.
Correct.
All right. Now, interestingly, can I have the photo, please? You took a photo to Peter Porter. Is that right?
Yes.
But you only showed him one photo, didn't you?
Yes.
And that was a photo that you know to be, because it says on the back, January last year.
Correct.
So quite some time, 10 months before this incident of which you're giving evidence.
Yes.
Yeah? Now, in that photo, the young woman has large hooped earrings and short blonde spiked hair, doesn't she?
Correct.
Now, when you gave your evidence before this court on your oath, you said twice that Mr. Porter said that the woman in the photo, that was Evelyn Cannon, and then you changed it to Carmelo Kane, is that right?
Correct.
Now, that's not quite right, is it?
Yes.
You took a statement from Mr. Porter. Do you have that there?
Yes.
Can you see the second last paragraph and the last paragraph? He says this. He, that is you, Senior Constable O'Rourke, produced a photograph of a woman and asked me if she looked like the woman who rented the locker. The woman in the photograph had large hooped earrings and short blonde spiked hair. And then it says this. Peter Porter's telling you this in his statement. I said that it did look like Carmelo Kane. That was the question you asked him, and that was the reply that he gave, was it not?
Correct.
Now, Luigi Forelli, the owner of the bar, you spoke to him but you didn't take a statement, is that right?
Correct.
The first thing that Evelyn Cannon said to you when you put the allegations to her was, "You've got the wrong woman," wasn't it?
Correct.
Yeah. And she's maintained her innocence on these charges ever since, hasn't she?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. No further questions, Your Honour.
Did you want the jury to see that photograph, Mr. Lyon?
Not really.
May I have a look at it? Yes, thank you.
That's
Any re-examination?
not really, Your Honour.
No, Your Honour.
Yes, thank you, Councillor.
Thank you.
Mr. Doyle.
Your Honour, the prosecution calls Mr. Peter Porter.
Silence. What is your full name?
Peter Porter.
Repeat after me. I solemnly and sincerely
I solemnly and sincerely
declare and affirm
that
the evidence I shall give
the evidence I shall give
will be the truth,
will be the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
nothing but the truth.
nothing but the truth.
So your full name is Peter Porter?
Yes.
And Mr. Porter, you work at Southern Cross Railway Station, is
Yes.
that right? What do you do there?
I'm in charge of the luggage lockers.
And what does that involve, Mr. Porter?
I rent the lockers out to customers for $1 a day. We keep a record of the lockers used and we provide a customer with a key.
How many keys are there per locker?
There's only one key per locker.
So, Mr. Porter, if you have given that key out to a customer, do you or anybody else have access to the locker?
No.
Now, were you on duty, Mr. Porter, on the 3rd of October last year?
Yes, I was.
Do you recall on that day renting out locker number 13?
Yep, I rented it to a woman named Carmel. When she filled the record book, she signed her name as C.O. Kane.
When this woman signed the record book, Mr. Porter, how far away from you was she?
A metre.
Did this woman record any other details in the record book?
Yes, she gave an address of Canning Street, Carlton.
What did this woman look like?
She had short hair and large earrings.
What colour was her hair?
Blonde.
Did she say anything?
She was quite chatty. I remember she asked if there was more than one key to the locker. I told her there wasn't. She also told me she had a Russian friend who might come and pick up the parcel.
During this conversation, Mr. Porter, how close was she to you?
A metre or two.
And once you gave her the key to the locker, Mr. Porter, what did she do?
She just walked out of the station on her way.
Now, Mr. Porter, from the time you first saw this woman, after seeing her sign the book, having the conversation, watching her place the item in the locker, over what period of time did you observe her?
Would have been about maybe 5 minutes.
Now, a couple of days after this, Mr. Porter, you were visited by a police officer, is that right?
Yes.
A Senior Constable O'Rourke.
Yep.
And what did Mr. O'Rourke want?
He asked me about the woman who rented locker number 13. He showed me a photograph of a woman who had large hooped earrings and spiked blonde hair.
Might the witness be shown Exhibit F, Your Honour, the photograph? Mr. Porter, was that the photograph you were shown by Constable O'Rourke?
Yeah.
And what did you say when shown that photograph?
I said it looked like Carmel, the woman who rented the locker.
Now, Mr. Porter, would you recognise this woman who rented the locker if you saw her again?
Yes, I think I would.
Do you see her, Mr. Porter, in this courtroom today?
Objection, Your Honour.
And what's the nature of the objection?
Well, on 2 separate occasions, once at the time he was spoken to by Mr O'Rourke and again in the witness box today, this witness has been given a photo of my client, or our client, and now he's being asked to point out whether she's in the courtroom. Of course he's going to choose the very woman he's just seen the photograph of.
Well, it really doesn't have much weight, does it, Mr Doyle?
Your Honour, my submission, it is probative, particularly as this man, so the defence say, would never have seen this woman in the flesh. The defence will no doubt make the point that he was shown a dated photograph, but here she is with her current appearance, and this will give the witness an opportunity to either confirm or retreat from his earlier identification, Your Honour.
Yeah, well, I think the evidence is so lacking in weight that I won't permit it.
As Your Honour pleases. I have no further questions for Mr Porty, Your Honour.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honour. Mr Porter, you told us how in October of 2012 you were working at Southern Cross Station.
Yep.
And that's a busy station, that's a fair description.
It's pretty busy, yeah.
Deals with country trains.
Yep.
Deals with suburban trains.
Yes.
And there's a constant array of people coming through the station.
There is.
The busiest times are at the morning and the afternoon peak.
Yep.
And morning peak goes on at least until about 9 a.m.
Yep.
It was not long after 9 a.m. on the morning of the 3rd of October that it had been so busy you'd already rented every available locker.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think I gave her the last locker.
And it's at that time your records show you rented locker number 13 to Carmel O'Kane.
Yes.
You'd never previously seen that person?
No.
You haven't seen that person since?
No.
And after that 5 minutes you spent with Ms O'Kane, you worked the rest of the shift on that particular day?
Yes.
Dealt with more people during that time?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You were working again on the 5th of October?
I was.
Renting more lockers to more people when Senior Constable O'Rourke arrived?
Yep.
And he asked you about the person who'd rented locker number 13 48 hours before and many customers before?
That's right.
You wanted to do your best to help the police officer?
Yes.
As helpful as you could be to the police officer?
Absolutely.
Now, you told the police officer the woman you rented the locker to was tall, blonde, with spiked hair and large earrings.
Yes, I recall saying to him that she had spiky hair and hooped earrings. Yep.
In fact, it was the spiked hair and large earrings which stood out to you.
Yeah, that's right.
And he showed you a single photograph.
He did.
Of a woman with spiked hair and hooped earrings.
Yes, he did.
You could not tell from the photo how tall the woman was, obviously.
No.
And the police officer asked you a question about that single photo, didn't he?
Yes.
And what he actually asked you was, does the woman in the photo look like Carmel O'Kane, correct?
Oh, probably. I don't really recall exactly what he said, but he gave me a photo and said, does it look like that person? And I said, yes.
And that's what you said, yes, it does look like Carmel O'Kane.
Probably, yes.
Thank you.
No re-examination, Your Honour.
Yes, thank you.
That's the prosecution case, Your Honour.
Yes, Mr Lyle.
Your Honour, I call Evelyn Cannon.
Please come down to the witness box, please, Miss Cannon.
Silence. What is your full name?
Evelyn, middle name not guilty, Cannon.
Read after me. I solemnly and sincerely
I solemnly and sincerely
declare and affirm
declare and affirm
that the evidence I shall give
that the evidence I shall give
will be the truth,
will be the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
Ms Cannon, would you tell this jury where you work?
Where I work?
Yes.
Yes, I work at this lovely place called Luigi's Bar in Carlton.
And who's the owner of that bar?
Strangely enough, it's actually Luigi.
How long have you known Luigi?
I've known him for a really long time. Since I left school, I've been working there for about 3-4 years, so a while.
Can I take you back to the events of October last year? On the 5th or 6th of October last year, you were arrested by the police. Do you remember the events leading up to that?
Yes, I do. They were very disturbing.
All right. I want to ask you about the night that you left work at Luigi's Bar. First of all, do you remember what you were wearing?
Yes, I was wearing a lovely overcoat, black stockings and ankle boots.
Can you tell the jury how you were wearing your hair that night?
Yes, I was wearing my hair spiked that night. I'd been wearing my hair spiked for quite a while. Actually, oh, sorry, I forget. I get confused. No, I was wearing my hair tipped that night, and I'd been wearing my hair tipped for a while since then.
Was your hair spiked on that night?
No, it was not spiked. I went to this amazing holiday in Bali, and when I got back, I thought, no, spiked look ugly. I think Luigi said it looked quite ugly, so I changed to tipped, and I haven't worn my hair spiked since then.
And when was the holiday in Bali?
It was in May.
All right. And have you worn it spiked since then?
No.
All right. Let me be clear. Let's be clear for the jury then. Was your hair spiked on that night?
No, it was not spiked.
All right. Do you wear earrings, Ms. Cannon?
Yes, I do.
And were you wearing earrings on that night?
Yes, I was.
What were you wearing?
I think I was wearing just small studded earrings.
You've heard the evidence of Senior Constable O'Rourke. He described a woman crossing Canning Street that was wearing large hooped earrings. Were you wearing earrings like that?
No, certainly not. They weren't fashionable at that time, so I wasn't wearing them.
Right. In the photograph taken of you in Bali, you appear to be wearing a pair of large hooped earrings.
That's correct.
But you weren't on that night?
No.
All right. Do you wear glasses?
Only for fashion and sometimes when I'm reading very small words.
Was that very small or very big words, Ms. Cannon?
Either.
All right. Do you own a pair of red-framed glasses?
No, I do not.
All right. On that night, were you carrying anything?
I probably was carrying my red bag that I was using around that time.
You have heard allegations that that a woman was seen in a telephone booth with a large tapestry bag.
Yes, I've never owned a tapestry bag. They're quite ugly.
Now, if I can have the map for a moment, please, Mr. Cooper. Now, you see this map. You understand this to be a sketch of Canning Street near where you work. So you've got Luigi's Bar, the vacant shop, the video shop and the phone booth there.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to have this handed to you. I want you to just indicate on the map where you went after you left Luigi's Bar.
So I left... So I left Luigi's Bar and then I walked along the street and in the dark, there were quite a few people wandering around at the time, and then I went to the end of the street in front of the vacant, there was a video library store here, and I waited for a taxi, and that's where I got my taxi.
Where did you get the taxi from? From which side of the road?
From the same side as Luigi's Bar.
All right. Did you cross Canning Street at all?
No, I did not.
All right. It's the east side. The east side. Thank you, Your Honour. Now, thank you, Mr. Associate. If I can have the witness identify the photograph that's been tendered. I think it's Exhibit F. You see that photograph there?
Yes.
Is that a photograph of you?
It is.
It shows you with spiked hair and large hooped earrings, but when was that taken, do you say?
That was taken I think it was the beginning of last year. It was certainly way before I went to Bali and certainly before that event.
Would you like the jury to see it now, Mr. Lyle?
Not really, no, Your Honour. Yes, Your Honour.
Show the photo for the members of the jury. You'll have this in your jury room, members of the jury, so don't take a lot of time looking at it now. Just pass it along.
May I continue whilst they see the photograph, Your Honour? Thank you. Ms Cannon, on the 3rd of October last year, did you attend at Southern Cross Station and rent a locker?
No, I did not.
All right. Let me ask you, do you know Taras Shenko?
I do know him.
How do you know him?
I only vaguely know him. He's asked me out a couple of times at Luigi's bar, and pretty much his name scared me, so I always said no.
Very good. Now, you made a record of interview with the police. You heard that read to the court today.
Yes.
In that record of interview, when you spoke to the police, you said that you didn't know him. Why did you say that?
Well, he always looked kind of scary. He always had his hair sort of slimed back and this big leather jacket, and he just looked dodgy, especially because of his name and everything. So I just didn't want to be associated with him. So I said I didn't know him.
I want to ask you this finally, Ms Cannon. Did you agree with Mr Shenko to supply cocaine?
No.
The parcel of cocaine that you've seen put into evidence already earlier this evening, did you possess that drug, Ms Cannon?
No.
I have no further questions. Just wait there. Yes, Mr Beale.
Ms Cannon, you began your evidence by talking about Luigi, did you not?
Yes. Yes.
Luigi, who runs Luigi's restaurant, Luigi, who you've known for a long time, Luigi, who, correct me if I'm wrong, is sitting over there, that gentleman with the red suspenders.
That's correct.
You told the ladies of the jury that you've known Luigi for a long time, you've worked with him for a long time. Is that
Yes.
correct? Your relationship with Luigi has been much more than just work. Is that correct?
No.
Were you not his girlfriend some years ago?
A girl forgets these things. Not really.
Not really? Not really? Do you want to think about that?
I would never define it as being a girlfriend, no.
Your solicitors took a statement from you shortly after these events. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that statement was provided to the police. Is that correct?
Yes.
And in that statement, you talk about the events of the night in question.
Yes.
Now, in that statement, you describe how you walked out of Luigi's restaurant and you passed a phone box and you noticed a woman in that phone box. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, you're a dedicated follower of fashion, are you not?
Yes, I would say so.
Yes. And you were wearing a coat that night that was a special coat to you.
It was a special coat, but it was also just a black jacket, so a lot of people wear them.
It was a coat, was it not, that you thought was a one-off?
I'd like to think so, yes.
Now, this woman who you said you saw at the phone box, what sort of a coat was she wearing?
Well, she was wearing a black overcoat, which I thought was similar to mine, but, I mean, so many girls these days wear black overcoats. It was similar, but not quite the same. Probably a little bit cheaper than mine, I imagine.
say it was similar to yours but cheaper than mine, nothing really to hold your attention. Is that right?
I mean, anyone else looking at her wearing that jacket and me wearing that jacket, it would look similar.
You say that it was this woman who got into the phone box, not you.
Yes. Yes, that's correct.
You say that you just walked on past that phone box and got in a taxi.
Yes, I was working a long shift and I was just eager to get in a taxi and go home.
And did that taxi pull up in front of the 24-hour video shop?
Yes. Yes.
You've heard Officer O'Rourke's evidence about what he saw.
Yes.
No mention of seeing another woman wearing a similar coat walking past that phone box at the time?
Yes, that's correct, but there's...
Just answer the questions, witness.
Yes, that's correct.
No observation of a taxi pulling up outside the 24-hour video shop at that time?
Well, I think he was preoccupied looking at the other woman.
It's only a short distance, is it not, Miss Cannon, from the phone box to the 24-hour video shop?
Yes, that's correct.
They're very close together.
Yes, it didn't take me too long to get from there to the taxi.
The lighting outside the 24-hour video shop was quite strong?
No, it wasn't particularly strong.
All right. You participated in a record of interview with Constable O'Rourke, and you've heard the transcript of that record of interview read out.
Yes.
In the course of that interview, you were asked this question and you gave this answer. Do you know Tarashenko? Never heard of him. No, wait, I think I know who you mean. I think he is a customer, but I don't know him. I have had nothing to do with him. The reply, never heard of him, was false, wasn't it?
It was false, yes. I was very flustered and didn't know what I was saying.
It was deliberately false, Ms. Schenko. Sorry, not Ms. Schenko, Ms. Cannon. It was deliberately false, was it not?
At the time, yes, it was deliberately false.
Why didn't you tell the ladies of the jury that when I first asked you the question that it was deliberately false?
Sorry,
Why didn't you tell them when I first asked you whether it was deliberately false?
Well, it was deliberately false, but I changed my statement at a later time. I didn't want to be associated with Tarasenko, and that's why I said that first when I was interviewed.
And what you went on to say, no, wait, I think I know who you mean. I think he is a customer, but I don't know him. I've had nothing to do with him. That wasn't true either, was it?
Well, he is a customer, so that is true, but as I've said, I probably knew him a little bit more than I said. That's correct.
Yes, he'd been coming to the restaurant, he'd been asking you out.
That's correct.
You lied to Police Officer Rourke in your record of interview when he asked you about Tarashenko.
In that first instance, yes.
You lied because you knew that the truth was you were involved with Tarashenko in this conspiracy.
No, as I said, he was just... I would never be associated with someone with sleazy hair and a name like that.
In answer to questions from my learned friend as to how you were wearing your hair that night, you initially said it was spiked, didn't you?
Yes, that was a mistake.
That wasn't a mistake, that was a slip, wasn't it, Miss Cannon?
No, definitely not. I haven't had my hair spiked for a long time. I mean, if you open the fashion mags, you won't see any girls with spiked hair. That's not how I wear my hair.
Can I suggest, Miss Cannon, that that slip was a window on the truth?
No, not at all. It's simply because people keep saying I had spiked hair and a girl gets confused, but I definitely had tipped hair and I haven't had spiked hair for at least a year.
These girls won't be confused, Miss Cannon.
Examination.
None required.
Go back to the docket, please. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
You want to call Luigi Fiorelli?
Silence. What is your full name?
My name is Luigi Fiorelli.
Repeat after me. I solemnly and sincerely
I solemnly and sincerely
declare and affirm
that
the evidence I shall give
the evidence I shall give
will be the truth,
will be the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
Your name is Luigi Fiorelli.
Yes.
And Mr. Fiorelli, you live in Canning Street, Carlton?
No, I work there.
Okay. And what is your occupation, Mr. Fiorelli?
I am the proprietor of my own bar, Luigi's.
And do you know Evelyn Cannon?
Evie, yeah, we go way back.
For how long have you known her?
I've known her since we were little kids. She used to be my girlfriend when we were kids.
In October of last year, what was she to you?
She was my waitress.
And how long had she been working for you?
About 5 years.
Was she working for you regularly in October of last year?
Yes, she was.
And how often would you see her in October of last year?
In October, she was working the night shift, so I would see her about 5 times a week.
And how did she wear her hair in October of last year?
Well, she went through this phase. She came back from Bali and she changed her hair from spiked to really soft and flowy. I told her it made her look more elegant.
If I could just clarify your answer to that question then, Mr. Fiorelli, how was she wearing her hair in October of last year?
Soft, not spiked.
But had you known her to have spiked hair?
Years ago.
Mr. Fiorelli, one other question. Do you still run the bar?
Yes.
Can I make a booking for 7:15?
This time of night? Thank you.
Mr. Fiorelli, Ms. Cannon, or Evie as you call her, has worn her hair spiked on and off for a long time.
Yes, last year she did.
Now, you don't see Ms. Cannon socially these days, do you, Mr. Fiorelli?
No, not anymore. We're so busy.
You just see her at work.
Yes.
So outside of work, you don't know how she wears her hair.
No.
And Mr. Fiorelli, you've got no memory in particular of the night of 3 October of last year, do you?
No, that was a busy week.
Now, Mr. Fiorelli, you have a customer, don't you, called Taris?
Yes.
And this man is a regular at your bar?
Yes, he is.
You found out, didn't you, that this man had been arrested by police?
Yes, I did.
And you found that out through a conversation you had with Evie Cannon, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
She told you that Taris had been arrested the night before.
Yes, she did, while she was making cappuccinos.
She didn't tell you, did she, how she knew that information?
No, she went on a rant about how he kept asking her out and how she was freaked out, that he looked a bit dodgy. I told her, Evie, you can never be too careful. Stay away from him.
Mr. Fiorelli, you saw Evie and Taris together at the restaurant, didn't you?
No, I can't say I ever have.
Now, you've been good friends for many years, haven't you, with Evie Cannon?
Yes.
And she's an old girlfriend of yours?
Yes,
She's worked at your restaurant for the last 5 years.
that's correct.
She's a valued employee.
Definitely.
You wouldn't want to lose her as an employee, would you, Mr.
No, I would
Fiorelli?
not.
You made a statement to Ms Cannon's lawyers, didn't you, about this matter?
Yes, I did.
2 weeks ago. You agreed to make that statement, didn't you, Mr Fiorelli, in part because Evie is your friend?
Yes.
Can I suggest to you, Mr Fiorelli, that you have seen Taris and Evie Cannon together at your bar?
No, I definitely have not.
Mr Fiorelli, are you the sort of person who might give evidence that wasn't quite true in order to help a friend?
Not at all.
In order to help a valued employee?
No.
Do you have a criminal record, Mr Fiorelli?
Objection, Your Honour.
The basis of the objection.
Whether or not Mr Fiorelli has prior convictions is irrelevant and should not affect the jury's assessment of his credibility in my submission.
It may or may not be, depending on the nature of the criminal record. Do you persist, Mr Doyle?
Yes, Your Honour.
Well, ordinarily we'd hear this in the absence of the jury, but what do you want to put to the witness?
I want to put to the witness, Your Honour, that he has 2 prior convictions. One sustained 10 years ago for the possession of 2 marijuana plants, and the other sustained more recently for assault.
Yeah, well, I don't think those convictions would be of a nature that they could legitimately affect his credit, so I won't permit you to put those.
I won't persist, Your Honour. I have no further questions for Mr Fiorelli.
Members of the jury, just put all of that out of your mind, won't you? Yes, thank you, Mr Fiorelli. Is that your case?
That's the case for the defence, Your Honour.
Members of the jury will now hear senior counsel for each of the parties address you. Yes, Mr Bell.
Your Honour, pleases. Ladies of the jury, there's no dispute that the woman who hired the locker, deposited that parcel in the locker, the same woman who entered that telephone booth in Canning Street and concealed the key for that locker. There's no dispute that that woman possessed cocaine and was party to a conspiracy to supply cocaine to others, a conspiracy with Taris Schenko. The only dispute, the only real issue in this case is whether Evelyn Cannon was that woman. You have heard the evidence of 2 critical witnesses. Officer O'Rourke, who took up a surveillance post on that night, on the 3rd of October, and who made observations of the female offender. And you've also heard the evidence of Peter Porter, who had dealings with that female offender earlier that day, when that locker was hired. Evelyn Cannon's initial claim in her record of interview that she did not know Taris Schenko is, on her own admission, false. A deliberate falsehood. A lie. A lie, ladies and gentlemen, a lie, ladies, told from a consciousness of guilt. An innocent woman would not have told that lie. The story that the defence, that Evelyn Cannon has tried to spin, is a far-fetched one. On this story, there was another woman who looked like her, dressed like her, who happened to be at exactly the same place at the same time. that police officer O'Rourke confused for Evelyn Cannon. It's far-fetched. It's the story of a woman who is desperate to conceal the truth. And it is a story that is refuted by the evidence of those two key witnesses, Officer O'Rourke and Peter Porter. Now, why should you place importance on what O'Rourke said? Because of this. The opportunity he had to observe the female offender was excellent. He was close to the action on that night of the 3rd of October at 1 o'clock in the morning. A weeknight, not a busy night. You heard him give sworn evidence that there weren't many vehicles, there weren't many pedestrians, nothing impeded his view. The lighting was good. You have the diagram that shows you the street lamps, all of which were working. There's the light from Luigi's. There's the light from the 24-hour video shop. There was plenty of time to observe the offender as she came out of Luigi's and went into that telephone box, and then, after exiting the telephone box, walked across the street, even nearer to Officer O'Rourke. He did not lose sight for a moment of the female offender as she came out of Luigi's and made her way into the telephone box. And he saw her enter that telephone box. Now, it's also significant what he didn't see. He didn't see the things that Evelyn Cannon has made up. He didn't see a second woman at the telephone books at the same time. He didn't see a taxi outside the 24-hour video shop. If those things had happened, ladies of the jury, he would have seen them. In the course of his investigations, he goes back to Luigi's restaurant the next night. The 5th of October, he goes there. One of the things he does there is draw a sketch. And that's of considerable assistance in this case. But he also, again, has an opportunity to observe at close quarters Evelyn Cannon. This is not looking at a picture, which is, it's been suggested to you that that's an inferior form of identification. When he goes to Luigi's restaurant the next night, he sees Evelyn Cannon in the flesh. He sees her close up. He's got the opportunity to observe her, and he identifies her as the woman he saw in the telephone box. When you would think the events of the previous night would be fresh in his memory. And then there is the record of interview that takes place on the 6th of October, in which she lies. Peter Porter, he also had an excellent opportunity to observe that female offender. They had a conversation. She was quite chatty, you remember him saying. She had to sign an application form. She then went to the locker and placed a parcel within it, all giving Peter Porter an opportunity to observe the female offender in close quarters. And when he's shown the photograph, it's when those events are fresh in his memory. We're not talking about an identification that is made weeks, months, years afterwards. He's shown a photograph and says, yep, that looks like a woman. You put those two pieces of evidence together, plus the lie told by Evelyn Cannon, and you ought to be satisfied beyond a reasonable doubt that she has been in a conspiracy in the wicked activity of supplying cocaine.
Thank you, Your Honour. You've got the wrong woman. They were the very first words uttered by Evelyn Cannon when she was confronted by Senior Constable O'Rourke with the allegation that she'd conspired with Tarashenko to spy cocaine. And these words are the hallmark of the doubt, that is, the reasonable doubt that you will have in this case. The Crown has not proved that the woman who left the key in the telephone box or the cocaine in the locker was in fact Evelyn Cannon. And let me tell you why. It starts at the very beginning of the prosecution case, the observations made by Senior Constable O'Rourke. And that's where you start your examination, members of the jury. The evidence given by Senior Constable O'Rourke. Compare the three things that the policeman said, and you'll see that there are three very different descriptions given. The first observation was made. It was said to be a clear view as Evelyn Cannon left Luigi's bar and before she entered said to have entered the telephone box. It was a clear view, good lighting, over 12 metres, unimpeded, it was said. And yet all that Senior Constable O'Rourke could say was that the woman was wearing a black overcoat, black stockings and ankle boots. She was 170 centimetres tall, that she wore short blonde tipped hair, and that it was Evelyn Cannon. Not bad you'd think. But in the phone box, what the police saw was that a woman had a large tapestry bag. You saw the size of the bag, and yet it was something that Senior Constable O'Rourke did not see when Evelyn Cannon walked out of Luigi's bar. Why? Because it was a different woman. After the phone box, the description differs again. The hair was spiked on top. And then she was seen to be wearing large hooped earrings and red glasses. Now, none of these observations were made at first either. And you may think that that's the real conspirator with Tarashenko. But you know what? Leads to the same result. It leads to a reasonable doubt that the woman crossing the road after exiting the phone box was Evie Cannon. Then take into account Senior Constable O'Rourke's notes taken at the time of the observations. As she walks away from the phone box, Constable O'Rourke notes someone 179 centimetres in height, medium build, wearing a black coat. Now, the only similarity between all of the three observations is a black coat. And let's face it, in this day and age, that's not a real point of distinction. The fact is, O'Rourke simply missed Evie Cannon as she walked between the telephone booth and the vacant shop, the unlit vacant shop, and entered the taxi parked outside the video shop. Members of the jury, we may never know the name of the woman in that phone box, but we know it wasn't Evie Cannon. Let's look at the evidence of Peter Porter. You have real flaws in that purported identification led by the prosecution. He recalled a woman calling herself Carmel O'Kane renting a luggage locker. She had large earrings, which he thought looked nice, with her short hair. And it was those features that he referred to in his evidence, that is, large earrings and short hair. Now, it's not surprising that when he's shown one single photo by Senior Constable O'Rourke 2 days later of a woman with large earrings and short blonde spiked hair, that he simply said, yeah, that looked like Carmel O'Kane. The photo was old, it was outdated, and it was no longer a depiction of the current, or then current, Evie Cannon. But the real vice here is that Mr. Porter wasn't given a choice. Just one photo was shown to him. We suggest that it was not the person he was identifying, but the similarity of jewellery and hairstyle. Now, this so-called identification evidence is notorious for its failings. People make mistakes all the time. And let me say this to you. Looks like is not good enough when you've got to be satisfied beyond reasonable doubt. Let's look finally at the evidence of Evie Cannon and Luigi Forelli. On top of that, you've heard from both of them. Evie Cannon told you on her oath that she did not have spiked hair since last year when she got back from Bali. She did not wear spiked hair on that night in October last year. She told you on her oath, and very candidly, that she did know Tarashenko but she knew him as a regular of Luigi's bar. When you look at the hesitation in her record of interview, you may think that, yes, she did say she didn't know him, but she wasn't corrected. She corrected herself and said she did know who he was. Similarly, Mr. Forelli told you that Evie Cannon did not have spiked hair on the 3rd of October last year and had not done so since her trip to Bali earlier in the year. And he told you that he complimented her on the change in style and she'd stuck to it ever since. The fact is, members of the jury, Evelyn Cannon did not conspire with Tarashenko to supply cocaine, and she did not possess cocaine. You cannot be satisfied that she was the woman that entered the phone box. And as a consequence, members of the jury, you cannot be satisfied beyond reasonable doubt that she is guilty of cocaine as charged of supplying cocaine by conspiracy in charge 1, or the charge of possessing cocaine in charge 2. In those circumstances, put simply, the prosecution have the wrong woman. And the just verdict in this case is clear. You must find this woman not guilty.
Thank you, Dr. Lyon. Members of the jury, you represent one of the most important institutions in our democratic society and one of the greatest guarantees of freedom from oppression of the state that we all enjoy, the institution of trial by jury. You stand between the accused, Evelyn Cannon, on the one side and the state on the other. She cannot be found guilty of these charges unless and until you so find her. You can only find her guilty, however, if the prosecution satisfies you beyond reasonable doubt of her guilt. She is presumed to be innocent, and she retains that presumption in her favour unless and until the prosecution satisfies you beyond reasonable doubt of her guilt. It's the prosecution case that on the 3rd of October last year, Evelyn Cannon deposited cocaine in a locker at Southern Cross Station, and in the early morning of 4 October placed the key to that locker in the telephone booth a short distance up the road from her workplace at Luigi's Bar on Canning Street in Carlton. From there it was collected, so the prosecution maintained, by the accused co-conspirator, Tarashenko, who was then arrested and found in possession of the key to that locker. There's uncontradicted evidence that on the 3rd of October a person calling herself Carmelo Kane of Canning Street, Carlton, deposited a parcel in locker 13 at Southern Cross Station, and that there's only one key to that locker. The parcel was subsequently retrieved by police and discovered to contain cocaine. For you to find Evelyn Cannon guilty of both the charge of possession of cocaine and the charge of conspiracy to supply it, you must be satisfied beyond reasonable doubt that the accused, Miss Cannon, was the person who claimed to be Carmelo Kane and deposited the parcel into the locker on the 3rd of October. You must also be satisfied beyond reasonable doubt that the person who placed the key in the telephone booth on the 4th of October was Evelyn Cannon. I understand the prosecution case to be that both acts were performed by the one and the same person, that is, the accused. Let me take you to those two related events in turn. Before you can find the accused guilty, you must be satisfied beyond reasonable doubt that the person to whom Peter Porter rented the locker, number 13, was in fact Evelyn Cannon. For this, you must consider the evidence of Peter Porter on the question of identification. Peter Porter has given evidence that the person in the photograph he was shown by police looks like the person who rented locker 13. He said he identified specific similarities, namely hooped earrings and short blonde spiked hair. It's for you to determine whether Evelyn Cannon actually was the person who hired the locker. Before you can convict her, you must be satisfied of that fact beyond reasonable doubt. In making this decision, it's important that you understand that Peter Porter has not given evidence actually identifying her as the person who hired the locker. Instead, he's given evidence that Evelyn Cannon looks like, that is, resembles that person. Even if you accept this evidence as true, it only shows that Evelyn Cannon's appearance is consistent with that of the offender. It doesn't show that she is the offender. You must not conclude from this evidence alone that Evelyn Cannon was the person who hired the locker. I'm not saying that you should ignore the evidence of similarities between Evelyn Cannon and the offender. You can use it together with other evidence in the case to help you determine whether or not you're satisfied beyond reasonable doubt that she is the person who hired the locker. However, by itself, this evidence is not enough to identify her as the offender. This is particularly so when the witness was shown only one photo by police and asked if the person in the photo was the offender. That's because of a phenomenon called the displacement effect in memory and observation, whereby witnesses tend to recollect and subsequently identify as the suspect the image of any person shown to them through photos or other means, as opposed to the face of a person they observed, say, at the scene. Let me take you to the second and related event, namely the identification of Evelyn Cannon by Senior Constable Paul O'Rourke as the person who placed the key to locker 13 inside the telephone booth a short distance from Luigi's bar on the morning of the 4th of October. Miss Cannon accepts that she left Luigi's bar at 1 o'clock that morning after finishing work at Luigi's bar, and indeed that she walked past the telephone box in question. She does not dispute that she was the person identified by Senior Constable O'Rourke leaving Luigi's bar. What she does dispute is that she was the person seen entering the telephone box and placing the key inside it, the person who was described by O'Rourke in more detail when she passed by him as he crossed the road. It's for you to determine whether the accused was the person who placed the key in the telephone booth. Before you can convict her, you must be satisfied of that identification beyond reasonable doubt. However, before you make this decision, I must give you some warnings about identification evidence. The experience of the law is that this evidence of eyewitness identification must be treated with great care. There have been many cases in which people have been wrongly convicted because even respectable and honest witnesses have given mistaken evidence confidently identifying somebody as the offender. Because of this risk of unjustly convicting the wrong person, you need to be very careful when considering identification evidence. Mistakes can happen because identification evidence is potentially very uncertain. It depends on the witness having clearly observed the offender, but often in circumstances in which they saw them which will not have been ideal. For example, there may have been poor lighting of the witness and the person they saw may have been far apart. You should ask yourself, did anything get in the way of the witness's view, such as the features of the telephone box, for example, in this case? Had the witness ever seen the person they were observing before? Did the witness have a reason for trying to observe the person involved and to remember their characteristics? Also, identification evidence depends on the witness remembering what the person they saw looked like and accurately identifying them. This can be difficult. Despite these uncertainties, witnesses often claim they are sure of their identification. Because they believe in their identification, they appear to be honest and convincing witnesses. However, there is a difference between honesty and accuracy. Even though a witness may honestly believe they've identified the accused, they may be mistaken. So you must not assume that just because a witness is honest, that their evidence is also reliable. I'm not saying you should not rely on identification evidence. However, to avoid a possible miscarriage of justice, it's important both that you examine all identification with special care and that you're especially cautious before accepting the evidence as correct and relying upon it. If, after careful examination of the identification evidence and in light of all of the circumstances and other evidence given in the case, you are satisfied beyond reasonable doubt that the accused was correctly identified, then you can use that evidence in reaching your verdict. I remind you that you can only return a verdict of guilty against Miss Cannon if the prosecution satisfied you beyond reasonable doubt of her guilt. In a moment you'll retire to consider your verdict. When you return, my associate will ask you, Madam Forelady, whether you find Miss Cannon guilty or not guilty, and you will announce the jury's verdict. Will you now retire, please, and consider your verdict? waiting for our...
Your Honour, may I raise a matter?
Well done, Mr Beale.
I'm sorry, Your Honour.
While we're waiting for our jury, I'm going to ask the members of the audience for a show of hands in a moment, and there'll be three alternatives. First of all, I'll ask a show of hands for those who are satisfied beyond reasonable doubt that Miss Cannon is guilty. I'll be asking for a show of hands of those who are satisfied, who are not satisfied beyond reasonable doubt of her guilt, so would find her not guilty. And I'll ask for a show of hands for those who just can't make up their mind one way or the other. So, first of all, who would find Miss Cannon guilty? Who would find her not guilty? And who is uncertain? Oh, it doesn't look good for you, Mr. Beale. We'll just wait on our jury for a minute.
We share a Floyd Tony race. Get some interesting characters floating around. Yeah.
Quiet, please. Madam Forelady, the associate will now take the verdict from you. Yes, Mr. Associate.
Madam Forewoman and members of the jury, have you agreed upon your verdict?
Yes.
Do you find Evelyn Cannon guilty or not guilty on charge 1, supplying a drug of defendant's namely cocaine?
Not guilty.
On charge 2, do you find Evelyn Cannon guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
Yeah. Thank you, members of the jury. May I say, I fully agree with your verdict. Adjourn the court, please, Mr. Associate.
All stand, please. This honourable court stands adjourned, signed, God save the Queen.
Thank you. Well,
Thank you. No, without such a fine instructor, we never would have.
Thank you, Caroline. Well done. Justice. Thank you. Thank you.